the hand.
I procced again instantly. That's so glorious.
Power up only one.
Okay, try to blow it. Yeah. Ooh,
Nice. 20 levels more, please.
move it. Oh, if it follows, then that's cool.
Cover.
Go, go, go. Yeah, we can do it here.
I come here in the corner.
Not enough time to drag them all down.
Okay.
Oh, come on, we don't need that much.
Yeah, here, we do it here. Funny one. Alright guys, this is Dunk again. This time I'm bringing you a guide, a more detailed guide about the Sunwoku Exploding Palm Monk for high speed greater rifts, like a 70 plus range. The 70 plus range is something a bit special because usually you have to have a decently organized team to have some efficiency there, because if your team doesn't organize you will just die all the time and you will have no to low efficiency. And so I'm bringing up this guide. This is about the Sunwoku monk because in my opinion the Sunwoku EP monk has the highest impact on the efficiency of the rift, because you have to work around, for example, the convention of elements here, and you also have to have some knowledge about how Exploding Palm works, and you have to have some good timing about all the buffs that you can get up for your Exploding Palms, because without all the buffs Exploding Palm will not do that much during high rifts. It will be enough if you have good gear and high paragon and stuff. You will be able to blow 65 rifts up anyways, whatever you do. It doesn't really matter if you have the maximum buff on your Exploding Palm or not. But if you go to 70 plus, you need to have the buffs up for good efficiency. And that just to name that, there is basically no difference if your team can clear like 72 in very good time, in just 5 minutes to 7 minutes in average rifts, and sometimes 4 or 5, below 5 minutes in very good rifts, then your team will not be much faster in the lower rank rifts in that setup. So basically you have to go as high as possible for the maximum efficiency of Exploding Palm, and that's basically the range where you can blow up blue elites with just one boom. Alright, but how do you do that? Skill setup and gear setup. Okay, gear. Pretty obvious, the furnace with those rolls. These are perfect rolls basically, just not exactly perfect damage, but it's still a very good weapon. Alternative could be the Wrath of the Bone King, but we want to blow up elites, and we can blow up elites, even in 70 plus with low paragon as I have. We can blow up elites, we want to do that, and also you lose vitality. If you die, you don't do damage, and that's not efficient. So for speeding, the furnace is just a prime choice that you have. You use the Sunwoku set, all 4 pieces of it actually. Gloves with those rolls, these are perfect rolls. Perfect stats, not perfect rolls in all slots, but very good actually. These shoulders are also very, very good, close to perfect. The helm is very good, but it doesn't have secondary resist. You want to have secondary resist with a monk always, wherever you can get it. This is my amulet. Best case would be crit chance, crit damage, and cold damage. Yeah, I don't have it. I will maybe find it sooner or later or not. It will be a big damage increase, but yeah, can't do anything then just play the game and hope for it. Okay, Gungdo gear, of course, mandatory for everything around Exploding Palms. String of Ears, this roll is not very good actually. So its secondary is bad, it doesn't have secondary resist, the percent life is low, resistance is low, but still, even this String of Ears is the best choice that you have. You can, in theory, use a Witching Hour, but only if you roll off the attack speed for percent life or something. So you have a roll like Dex, Wit, percent life, and crit damage. Then you might be able to use the Witching Hour to some good success in speeds, but I wouldn't recommend it, because you lose so much toughness, and you need toughness to survive. And if you don't survive, you don't have a good explosion going on, you know? Alright, here, boots. Crudest boots, mandatory. This roll is decent. I would have preferred movement speed or armor in this instead of the resistance, and then some secondary resist, but that's what I have here, and it's still very good. Rings, of course, focus and restraint. I have them with the maximum damage rolls, basically. Not perfect rings, but still decent one. Also secondary resist, and you might have noticed that on the shoulder, area damage. And so area damage is just massive. It's so massive for Exploding Palm, you can't skip it for efficiency. So I have rolled it here as well, because I would only get 15% more life, which adds up to the 15% on the chest and stuff. It's not that good. But area damage, that's very, very good, because actually for every 5 monsters, since area damage states that you have a 20% chance to proc it, so with 5 monsters, in average you will get like 1 proc. So for 5 monsters you get 1 times the value of area damage as damage increased, basically. Quinn69 did a good video about area damage. Check it out. It's very helpful to watch that stuff and understand it. So actually, whenever we have Exploding Palms going off that hit 5 monsters at the same time, this roll here is a damage increase of 20%. Not exactly 20%, it's less, because of course there's the paragons here. Paragon area damage, of course, that's a very good, strong thing there. Yeah, but still, so I have 70% area damage, which means that in 5 monsters, if the Exploding Palm is hitting 5 monsters, I have a damage increase of 70% average. If you have 10 monsters, it's already 140%, and so on. So the more monsters there are around in the explosion range, the more damage you get from that. And that means, even in the rings, instead of the primary stat dexterity, area damage is favorable. It's what you want for maximum efficiency in the Sanvoku Monk. Of course, you lose a bit toughness, and you would lose some single target damage that you actually don't have at all in that spec, so it doesn't matter. But maximum what you can get on dexterity here is 1,300 actually. For both rings, if they are ancient with maximum dexterity rolls. 1,300, that's in my case with low paragon, this is low for season actually, that's roughly 10% damage loss. But each of those rings can give me 20% area damage. I would go to 110% area damage, and this is just so much more, especially for Exploding Palm setup. It's so much more than just a plain dexterity. So if you can get those rings, use them. You might get some lag if you play into prime times like Saturday or Friday night. You might get some minor lag, and sometimes you screw up your explosion with this, but it's still worth it. It's so worth it. Just do it. Whenever you can, do it. Okay. Gems I use are Bane of the Trapped, Zaze, because both have separate damage multipliers. I don't need Ice Blink anywhere because the Barbarian is using that, and I have the Esoteric Alteration. So why? Bane of the Trapped, pretty obvious. Zaze, not that obvious, but I will explain it in the gameplay later, because you will make maximum use of that in the Convention of Elements setup. And here, Esoteric Alteration. You basically need that to survive. If you don't have that, it will be very hard to survive, even with all the damage and healing that damage resistance and healing that you get from your team. It will be very hard. Alternative that I used for a long time is the Bane of the Powerful, but actually that's not doing that much. Okay, 15% against elites, that adds up with up to 50% of the furnace, so efficiency is reduced, but there it's okay. But then the 20% damage increase that you get after you killed some elite pack, and you have to kill them all, you have to kill the minions as well of the yellow pack, and that's usually not the case. So Blue ones, sometimes or most of the times you can blow up blue ones and get the buff, but with the yellows it doesn't work, and sometimes you just have to skip and whatever. So this will be up like 50% of the time if you're lucky, and most of the times it will be up not as much. And also if you go for the damage, if you check for the damage multipliers that you have, it will not help you that much. Let's check it up. I have prepared something here. Where is it? There it is. Alright, here, skill damage modifiers. These are all additive damage multipliers on the same damage modifiers on the same category. So all this, EP, Unity, Determination, whatever, Voodoo, Strong Arms, they all add up to the same stack of increased damage, and that's 255% in the setup that we run. And on top of that, you could get the Bane of the Powerful and the assimilation from your generator, the stacks that you can get from that. But let's just ignore the generator and do the calculation here. If you calculate the Bane of the Powerful and the standard that you have, the absolute damage increase by the Bane of the Powerful active buff is 5.6%. That's not worth it. That's absolutely not worth it. Don't do it. Don't use it. It's really not worth it. Go with the esoteric alteration. That's what you need. Right. Items that includes cube. Let's go to the cube, of course. Here, weapon Fist of Azz, of course. That's it's mandatory for most rifts, of course. But actually, yesterday I screwed up a bit after searching some pools. I had Ingeom in. We did a 71 and we still cleared it in 6 minutes or 7 minutes something with Ingeom, you know. And so this is a very good example for the fact that everyone with semi-decent gear and knowledge of the gameplay can actually do the 70 speeds. So yeah, I will upload it later, but check it out. Okay, Leoric's Crown, maximum experience, of course, with the ruby in the helm, and convention of elements. That's the prime thing here. I will talk about that in the gameplay that you have to do for that spec. But let's continue with the skills first. Assimilation, I mentioned that. Each enemy hit with a third hit increases your damage by 5% for 5 seconds. That means whenever you have this 20 stacks, you have 100% damage increase. Remember, here, remember, it will go to that section, so it's not that big actually. It's still very, very noticeable. And you can make maximum use of that. Tempest Rush to activate Son Goku buff, and the second part of Focus and Restraint, Dashing Strike for toughness and mobility, of course. EP, don't talk about that. Mystic Alley, Fire Alley for damage buff with the crudest boots. And Mantra of Retribution, Transgression for attack speed, which is a separate multiplier. It's just like the weapon multiplier of attack speed. So when you have attack speed on your gear, like rings or gloves, they all stack up, and then multiply the damage, the attack speed increase that you have on your weapon, for example. And the transgression goes the same route. So it's a plain increase of attack speed, so it's helping actually. Yeah, there are alternatives. You can go for Blinding Flash, Faith in the Light, which goes in the same category. Remember this one, it goes here as well. So it's not 29%, it's much less than that. It's like 7% or something, but it will be snapshotted. Yeah, that's something I come back to later. Yeah, I just go with Transgression because, well, actually because we didn't really try to figure out an alternative, and I think it's okay. It's okay. Okay, Unity for some more additive damage increase, of course. Near-death experience, need that. Determination, also additive damage increase. Harmony for toughness. So these two, Unity and Determination, they are simply the best damage passives that we have here. For other setups, you can go with Mythic Rhythm. This is some snapshot mechanics, but this will never ever be applicable in speeds, so don't think about it. It's not worth it in speeds. Alright, so gameplay. There is some knowledge that you have to have about Exploding Palm and the Son Goku buff actually, and that's first is the snapshot mechanics. Every skill in that game basically does a snapshot. So whenever the skill is released, it will snapshot most of the damage buffs that you get, like skill damage buffs will be snapshotted, buffs from strong arm bracers and other buffs like the assimilation, they will be snapshotted on all skills. In most skills it doesn't really matter because you apply them and they do damage instantly and then they're gone. For Exploding Palm it's different, because you apply the Exploding Palm, it will have all these damage buffs up until the time it will blow up. And when it blows up, the Gungo gear will spread it, and the spreaded palms will have all these snapshotted damage multipliers. Damage modifiers, not the multipliers actually. Okay, and this means you have to get as much snapshot in as possible. And how do you do that? Just imagine the waypoint is the spot where you have the maximum density. So that means you dash in or you move in. Don't Tempest Rush in, I'll explain that later. Dash or move in if you can. Then if you see your conventional elements now have 6 seconds more after physical comes cold, then you should apply it before cold is up, and then Tempest Rush, dash out. Okay, why do I do that? First, if I am in the middle of that big pack, I use my generator, bam, apply the palm. That means I get like 20 stacks depending on how many monsters I hit. 20 stacks increased from the assimilation here, increased damage, adds up, snapshots on the EP and big damage boost. So why short Tempest Rush and then dash out? Short Tempest Rush, that means that you will get the Sunvoku buff up and you will get the second part of Focus and Restraint up, and especially the Sunvoku buff. That's a tricky one because apparently you can't refresh it. So that means if you trigger it, boom, you have 3 seconds of the buff and the damage increase. But when you trigger one and the second one will not make the buff last longer. So only the first clone that spawned here will give me the 3 seconds, and the second one will not do anything. And only after those 3 seconds are over and the buff drops, only then I can activate it again. So this is a pretty stupid gameplay thing that you have to do here, because it's a bug. In my opinion, this is a clear bug, and Blizzard is not able to handle that. And just in many cases Blizzard is producing some weird bugs, but yeah, that's a different story here. And that's why apply the palm, use Tempest Rush to get the clone very shortly before cold comes up, and then dash out, because dash will give you some distance, you will get the maximum Zaze, and then you just have to pray that your Witch Doctor will be able to proc the explosion within the buff time. If that doesn't happen in most of the cases, so the EP will go off to some extent even if the Witch Doctor doesn't manage to blow them up within the buff time. So if there's enough left to make a second explosion if you failed the first one, stay there and stay there until the cold is up once again. Even if you try to blow them up before that, you will not manage to get the same amount of killed monsters than you would get when you just wait for the next cold rotation. So your Barb and you yourself can aggro some more monsters, drag them in, and then make a second explosion. And usually this works out, and it's faster, more efficient than trying to force some weak explosion there. It's just not worth it. Alright, yeah, that's about that gameplay stuff. And that's the Sunvoku Monk. Did I forget something? Yeah, basically the convention of elements, I mentioned that, you have to check for that. It's tough because, once again, a Blizzard mistake. Your damage buff bar here is just too short. You can't put that all in. With the Monk and Barb, whatever, you have so many buffs all the time, you can't really track that. So find a way around that, like put an alarm clock that beeps like 8 seconds before cold comes up, and then work around that. This can happen, this can work, so yeah, just find your way. Alright, I guess I covered it all, so enjoy that spec. I do, certainly, I really love blowing them up. Unfortunately, I usually don't see the explosion itself, because I dash out and move a bit before that, but most of the times I see some Golgor or Unburied or whatever fat guy flying through my screen, and I love that. I just love that. Blow those fatties up. Okay, enjoy that spec, and see you next time. Bye.
Yeah, go try to play Altos solo on this map, you will see. You
No.
just leave the game.
Oh.
You have every single of your beers, like, you lose half of your zombie charger damage.
I know that problem because the old Crusader pony build
Yeah.
had the same issues.
There's too much collision.
Yeah. I love those flying Golgors.